As Lina steps into Alia's home, the air feels thick, almost oppressive. Shadows seem to shift slightly as she moves through the dimly lit hallway, feeling an inexplicable chill that runs down her spine. Alia greets her, looking haggard and distant, like someone haunted by something that can't be seen. The warmth and familiarity that once marked their friendship now feel dampened, tainted by an unspoken heaviness. Scene transition, first night. The mirror calls that night. As Lina settles into the guest room, she notices the mirror, a tall, ornate piece with an aged frame that seems out of place in the otherwise modern room. Drawn to it, she moves closer, her reflection slightly distorted as if a ripple runs through the glass. The silence presses in, and she swears she hears a faint whisper, her name almost inaudibly echoing from the mirror's depths. Dismissing it as her mind playing tricks, she pulls herself away, though unease settles deeply within her. Middle of the story. The unease grows. In the following days, strange occurrences heighten Lina's anxiety. Doors creak open without explanation. The mirror appears to reflect fleeting shadows behind her, and Alia becomes increasingly withdrawn, her gaze often lingering on the mirror as though in a trance. Lina tries to confront her friend, but Alia dismisses her concerns, insisting she's fine, her smile forced and haunted. One evening, Lina gathers her courage to confront the mirror alone. As she stands before it, her reflection feels wrong. Its eyes look slightly different, almost as if someone else is staring back. Her heart pounds as the whispered voices grow louder, each one calling her deeper into the mystery of Alia's suffering. Climactic scene, unveiling the mirror's secrets. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, Lina confronts Alia directly. Alia hesitantly reveals that ever since she found the mirror, she has been plagued by unsettling visions and whispers, and she feels like something sinister is trapped within it. Determined to help, Lina persuades Alia to uncover the truth together. Together, they stand before the mirror, and Lina places her hand on the glass, feeling a chill that bites into her skin. In that moment, the room dims, and they both hear a voice, not a whisper, but a wail, full of anguish and despair. Images flood the mirror's surface, revealing the tragic story of a woman who was trapped within it centuries ago, betrayed and cursed. Final resolution, the breaking of the curse. With newfound resolve, Lina and Alia perform a ritual to release the spirit trapped in the mirror. The house trembles, and as the spirit is finally freed, the mirror shatters into fragments, scattering across the room. Both women fall back, breathless, as the oppressive atmosphere lifts, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. In the morning light, Alia and Lina stand over the shards, relieved and yet deeply haunted by what they've experienced. The house feels different now, lighter, as though a burden has been lifted. But both friends know that the memory of the mirror's whisper will linger forever. Lina's disappearance haunted Alia's every waking moment. One day she was there, laughing as they shared secrets in hushed tones. The next, gone, vanished without a trace. The police investigation had yielded nothing, leaving Alia lost in a maze of grief and unanswered questions. "Lina," Alia whispered, her voice trembling. The house sighed, the wind moaning through the gaps in the window frames. A cold draft swept through the hallway, sending a shiver down Alia's spine. The mirror remained unchanged, reflecting the emptiness of the house and the hollowness in her heart. Days turned into weeks, weeks into an agonizing blur. Alia wandered from room to room, each one echoing with Lina's absence. The scent of her lavender perfume lingered, a painful reminder of the life that once filled these spaces. The mirror, however, remained a constant, its presence both terrifying and strangely comforting. One night, as Alia stood before the mirror, she heard it, a whisper, faint and distant, like a breath against her ear. It seemed to emanate from the mirror's depths, a chilling sound that sent a tremor through her. Her breath caught in her throat. Was it her imagination, fueled by grief and sleeplessness? "Lina," she breathed, her voice barely audible. The whisper came again, stronger this time, a murmur that seemed to slither around the edges of her senses. Fear, sharp and cold, gripped her heart, yet she couldn't tear herself away from the mirror's allure. It was as if something within its depths was calling to her. Her fingers trembled as she reached out, instinctively knowing that the whisper, the chilling sound that seemed to slither in her ears, belonged to Lina. It had to be her. But how? How could it be possible? Lina was gone, vanished. Wasn't she? The mirror held the answer. She could feel it. The reflection staring back at Alia wasn't entirely her own. Behind her image, a hazy, spectral figure flickered. Lina. But her twin's face was gaunt, her eyes wide and filled with an unworldly terror. She looked like a prisoner peering out from behind bars of moonlight and shadows. "Lina?" Alia breathed, her voice catching in her throat. The figure in the mirror, her sister, her own flesh and blood, turned her head slightly. Her lips moved, but no sound emerged. It was as if something was holding her captive, something sinister and unseen. Terror, sharp and cold, shot through Alia. Her hand moved instinctively, reaching out to touch the mirror, to touch her sister. But her fingers met only the cold, smooth surface of the glass. Lina's spectral form remained trapped, her eyes pleading for a rescue Alia was desperate to deliver. Section 5. Trapped. A sudden pull, a force stronger than anything Alia had ever felt, yanked her forward. The mirror's icy surface seemed to melt away, and then she was tumbling through a vortex of swirling colors and suffocating darkness. Panic clawed at her throat, her own scream echoing strangely around her, swallowed by the abyss. When the movement stopped, she landed hard on a cold, hard surface. Disoriented and gasping for breath, Alia struggled to sit up. The air was heavy, thick with the scent of decay and something else, something ancient and unbearably sad. Looking around, she realized with a growing sense of dread where she was. A twisted, decayed version of her own hallway stretched out before her. The wallpaper was peeling, the furniture rotting, covered in a thick layer of dust and cobwebs. It was like stepping into a nightmare, a macabre reflection of the life she knew. And then she saw her, Lina, standing at the end of the hallway. Section 6. The Mirror's Truth. Lina turned, her face etched with a despair so profound it made Alia's heart ache. "It trapped me," Lina whispered, her voice a broken echo of its former vibrancy. "The mirror. It feeds on life, on souls. It lured me in, promised me." She trailed off, her eyes filled with a terrible knowledge. "Promised you what?" Alia pressed, taking a step towards her sister, but Lina recoiled, fear flashing across her features. "Don't come any closer," she cried, her voice raw with desperation. "It wants you too. It's already begun to weave its spell." Alia stopped short, confusion and fear warring within her. She could feel a subtle pull, a whisper of temptation slithering around her thoughts, urging her closer to the heart of the mirror world. The air grew colder, the scent of decay stronger, suffocating. Section 7. A Sister's Plea. "We can't let it take you too," Lina pleaded, her voice thin and reedy in the oppressive silence of the mirror world. "We have to fight it, Alia. We have to find a way out." Her eyes, once filled with warmth and laughter, now reflected the chilling truth of their predicament. "But how?" Alia's voice trembled, echoing strangely in the oppressive silence. Fear was a living thing now, coiling around her throat, squeezing the breath from her lungs. The mirror's pull grew stronger, a siren song promising oblivion. "I don't know," Lina whispered back, her voice laced with terror. "But we have to try. We have to find a way to break its hold." They stood there, back to back, facing the unseen force that held them captive. Two sisters bound by blood and fear in a world of twisted reflections. Section 8. Desperate Measures. Days bled into nights. Time, in this horrifying reflection of reality, had lost all meaning. Alia and Lina huddled together for warmth, their hope dwindling with each passing moment. The mirror's presence was a constant weight, its darkness pressing in on them, sapping their strength. They searched for a way out, a crack in the mirror's defenses, but found nothing. The mirror world was a cage, reflecting their deepest fears and feeding on their despair. Alia knew they couldn't give up. couldn't let this cold, dark place claim them both. "We have to fight back," Alia said one night, her voice firm despite the tremor in her heart. "We can't let it win." Lina looked at her, a flicker of hope igniting in her eyes. "But how? It's too strong." Section 9. One last glimmer. A memory flickered in the back of Alia's mind, an old story her grandmother used to tell about the mirror. Its weakness. "Light!" she exclaimed, hope surging through her like a jolt of electricity. "The mirror thrives in darkness. We need light." Lina's eyes widened, a glimmer of understanding dawning on her face. "But there's no light here," she said, her voice laced with despair. "It's consumed everything." Alia shook her head, determination hardening her gaze. "Then we create our own." A plan began to form in Alia's mind, a desperate gamble fueled by love and fear. They had to escape, had to break free from the mirror's grasp, for themselves and for all the lost souls trapped within its depths. They had to fight. Section 10. Freedom's Embrace. With a newfound determination, Alia and Lina gathered every shard of glass, every reflective surface they could find. Focusing their fear, their anger, their desperate hope, they channeled their combined energy, their love for each other, into a blinding beam of light. The mirror world shrieked, a tortured sound that seemed to split the air. The darkness recoiled, shadows writhing as if in pain. And then, with a final deafening crack, the mirror shattered. Alia and Lina stumbled back, shielding their eyes from the blinding light that flooded the space. When the light subsided, they found themselves back in the hallway of their old house. The mirror lay in pieces on the floor, its power broken. They were free. A wave of relief washed over Alia, so profound it left her weak and trembling. They were alive. Section 11. The Unsettling Silence. Alia clung to Lina, their reunion a bittersweet victory. They had escaped the clutches of the mirror, but the ordeal had left its mark. The house, once familiar and comforting, now held an unsettling silence, a constant reminder of the darkness it had harbored. As they stepped over the shattered remnants of the mirror, a faint whisper echoed in the sudden silence, a whisper that seemed to emanate from the broken shards, promising a return, a reckoning to come. Alia shivered, fear a cold knot in her stomach. The mirror was gone, but the danger, it seemed, was far from over. It lingered in the shadows, a haunting whisper promising a day when the reflection would rise again, a day when the mirror's hunger would once more seek to claim the living.